Yes, the 411, the public safety information, the texting, emergency texting that took the place,
Took the place of Nextel.
of yes,
Nextel.
Nixle. But hopefully we will not have any problems. Are you good to go?
Just waiting for the recording to show up on this. Here it is.
All set.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. First order of business today is to go over our checklist to ensure our meeting is compliant with the right to know law under the state of emergency. And as chair of the Board of Selectmen, I feel that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are using both Zoom and YouTube for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number, 603-236-4730, or by clicking on the following website address, www.watervillevalley.org, or by texting to 603-254-6708, or by using the chat box on Zoom. And B, we are providing the public notice of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have been provided on the website of the town at www.watervillevalley.org. C, we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with the access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-236-4730 or email townofwv@watervillevalley.org. Or as Mark said, you can use 411 today to notify us if there's a problem. And D, we will adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. And this is Margaret Turner. I'm the chair of the Board of Selectmen, and I am alone.
Rich Rita here. I am the vice chair, and as far as I know, I am alone.
Mike Aronson alone.
Okay, do we have any privilege of the floor? The only guest that I see here, Tim.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tim Rose.
I'm Tim Rose, 9 Rose. We live on 11 Sylvan Lane, Waterville. I would like to ask you, because each morning I watch the WMUR COVID-19 cases in Grafton County, and the number in the last 2 weeks has risen from 14 to 20, and the active cases have gone from 1 to 4 undetermined up to 5. Can you provide any details on that?
Tim, I believe the answer to that is no. I'm going to defer to Chris to hear what he has to say about this. Putting you on the spot, Chris Hodges, but.
Okay, yes. We get the same information that you get. The only way we get information is through the rumor mill, or if somebody actually comes out and tells us either in confidentiality or if it's known to the public. So we don't get specifics on the number of cases. As first responders, we do get information on cases if we're dispatched to a residence that there's a confirmed case at, but we do not get that information. It's all under the HIPAA rules of confidentiality.
Fine, that's fine. I didn't know if you could expand on it, but going from 14 to 20 is, I think, significant. But does it have anything to do with, is there any place in Waterville Valley County other than Waterville Valley? I mean, does this
In
90?
Grafton County?
No,
Okay.
Waterville County.
It
Waterville
comes up as
County?
Waterville.
Yeah, that's the town of Waterville is what the
Yeah,
number you're
okay,
referring to.
Right. And so that's it. I mean, we are Waterville town, correct? There's nothing
Yep.
in the borders. Right. Thank
And
you.
we're in Grafton County.
Yeah, right. Okay, but
So-
the numbers are for Waterville. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tim.
Uh,
Anything
Margaret?
else? Yes, Marilyn.
Okay. I just wanted to add to that what I had heard, and somebody can correct me if it's not accurate, that, for example, the 7, this was a couple weeks ago, confirmed cases of employees at the mountain, they're not Waterville Valley residents, so they don't show up in the statistics.
Okay.
We just have to be really careful about, that type of, unless we know it firsthand.
Well, Tim said it at the Tuesday town forum meeting last.
What I'm saying is that doesn't necessarily, those cases that are on the dashboard don't necessarily mean they're the mountain cases, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I agree, but what I'm saying is slightly different, that I think that we're under this false sense of security that there's a low amount of COVID in the valley or around here, because the numbers don't include people who might be here sick with COVID but aren't residents here.
I'd agree with that, yes.
That's true. That's true. They definitely go by your hometown. So if, for instance, somebody was visiting from Massachusetts and they happened to stay in the valley after they had a positive test doing their quarantine up here, they would not show up in our numbers because they would be counted in Massachusetts.
Correct.
Right.
Could I say something?
Yes, Nina, go ahead.
Thank you, Margaret. I don't, it's not the number of cases that bother me. It's how the people got it. Did they go to a party at the golf club or did they,
I don't know that.
you don't
Yeah,
know?
we don't know
have
that.
anybody here tracing ever?
Yeah, anybody that's been, that needs to be contacted, that may have had contact, does get contacted by the state.
That's good news.
And
So if you haven't
Nina,
gotten,
Nina, also the state, if for instance, there was an event, or like if you go on the state website, you can see that there are several times where they have noted that restaurants have been the source of community spread. So they are pretty much on top of if it's a situation where a bunch of people were together in one place and they all got COVID, or most of them got COVID. But what they're doing really, and we probably have one of the best tracking systems in the nation because of how on top of it our Department of Health and Human Services has been. And that's an opinion, but they seem to really track everything down. I mean, even months ago when I went to get a test, they called me up to find out if I was okay, even though the test was negative. So I think they're doing a really good job of tracking things down. And I don't get any sense that people are not cooperating with them, but who knows?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Margaret.
Could I ask
Yep.
another question? Chris, you might know, we have actually signed up to get a vaccination in New Hampshire, and somebody told me this morning, well, no, since you're not really residents of New Hampshire, even though we've been living here for the last 15 months, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Do you have any idea whether this, I mean, sign up is legitimate for someone such as we?
Yeah, and during the sign up process, they will screen you for eligibility. And if they've scheduled you, then you're eligible.
Okay,
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all good.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? We can go on and we usually do our COVID update during our department head reports. But we could go on if there's no more privilege of the floor and look at approval of our minutes from December 2020. And I think there were some January minutes in there as well. Excuse me. It's dog interruptus. Sorry. Do any of the board members have any corrections to?
No, I'm
to
fine
any
with the
we all-
amendment.
Yeah,
I'm
we
fine
all
with the
had the
amendments we
chance to
made.
look at them ahead of time and to make our amendments. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Nope.
No?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. So I will move that we approve those minutes from the 2 meetings in December and also the first meeting in January that we had. Can I have a second on that?
This is Rich. I will second that motion.
Okay, so Margaret made the motion, Rich seconded. All in favor? Margaret, aye.
Rich, I.
Mike, aye.
Okay. Moving on, financial reports. Mark, fiscal year 20 year-end close and the audit update. I noticed that the number that we're returning to fund balance changed once again.
Yes, it did. And we just, as we continue to pay out, outstanding bills that have been coming in that were 2020 bills, we have now frozen all of the payments for 2020 because we have prepared the balance sheet. The auditor will be here tomorrow. So everything that we pay now will be in 2021. And unless the auditors question something and they ask us to make a change. So the number right now, the underspent amount on the operating budget is 237,128. And the revenue excess amount is 56,924. And that combined equals the 294,052 that we're showing on the use of fund balance sheet that's in your packet. Again, the audit starts tomorrow, and the only way that number is going to change is if they find something during the audit, but we don't anticipate that will occur.
Okay, Mark, and you're going to update our annual report
I
to
will.
include that
Yes.
number? Okay,
We-
thank
we
you.
will-
Thank
We
you.
will use that number in the annual report. Do you want to talk about the use of fund balance sheet number right now or wait until later?
We can talk about that.
Okay, so are there any questions? The $294,000 return to fund balance is what brings us to the 890,566, which is what we're estimating to be the 12/31/20 fund balance amount. That is 14% of our 2020 operating budget. It's down, from 14, almost 15% down to that 14.1% number. But remember that when we projected previous numbers, we also said that we were going to lapse some of our fund or some of our capital accounts to the fund balance, and we ended up not doing that. We've retained all of those to be able to use them in 2021.
What was that number, Mark, of those combined accounts we didn't lapse? Approximate. Is it about 50, 60,000?
Around 70 or 80,000, Mike.
So that brings us back up to our, at running average for fund balance. So the
Exactly.
money is still there, but instead of putting it to fund balance, we left it designated so we don't have to pull it out of fund balance later.
That's correct.
But it still leaves us a bit low in fund balance.
Well, lower than
It's-
we've been the last
yeah.
couple of years. Yeah. Yeah.
1%,
Percentage? Yeah,
about 1%.
It's about 5%, Margaret.
I thought he said it was 15% in the past, and now it's 14.1%.
No, it's compares dollars to dollars, not percentage of budget.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I think we're still in good shape because we're still utilizing 280,000 of that in the proposed budget for 2021. So we are returning a pretty high amount compared to the 7-year average when you look in that sheet. So we can do it either way. We can return more and lower the amount that we use in the 2021 ballot. I mean, we still have that flexibility before you set the amount that we go to the warrant with. So it's
I'm fine with leaving it the way you have it, Mark, just as long as we're acknowledging the other monies are there.
Yep.
It's not like the money disappeared.
right.
Right.
Yeah, the total are just in the water and wastewater related capital accounts. We have $93,000 for the repairs and maintenance capital reserves that we have. So, that was one source where we were going to take 25,000 or something like that out of that 93.
Right, we didn't have to make that repair.
Huh?
Thank you, Dylan.
So, but it gives you more flexibility in case we have an issue prior to the conduct of town meeting where we have to fix something very quickly at the plant. Any other questions or concerns, or do you want Rich, are you okay with the approach?
Good.
Okay. Margaret, you're all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. She's in her crate.
All right, well, that's all I have. That's all I have on
Okay.
the financials, if you don't have any questions.
All right. Department head reports. Brooke?
Hi. So just wanted to let everyone know that the Pathfinder patch, which is our second hiking patch program, is now official. We have the patch, looks like this. And we have 3 people already who have submitted for that, including Margaret Turner. So congratulations on that.
Wait a minute, you're double dipping.
She's the first one on both programs.
That's double dipping.
Oh, I think she's hiked the mall twice.
At least.
You're muted, Margaret.
You're muted.
Brooke, I was the second one on the other program.
Oh, you were. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
You were the second one. Well, it's a really cool, just to give you a little bit of information about it, this one is 70 miles versus 125 miles, which is our other one. And it's also more on the valley floor, sort of accessible from the valley floor. It doesn't take a lot of there's a few hikes on the other one that take some carpooling and some other interesting strategies to get it done. So it's more accessible for families and people that just aren't interested in hiking the bigger peaks. So that's off and running. And then wanted to let you know we have a new employee who has taken over for in our after school program for Carolyn, who went back to school. So that's 10 hours per week. And we also heard back from the school board, and they are comfortable with us having a few in-person programs during the New Hampshire vacation week. So we wanted to go ahead and plan for that from Saturday, February 20th to Saturday, February 27th, having a few in-person programs that would require advanced registration, and then also to offer pickleball a few times throughout that week. And the only other thing I had is we were able to map out the 5-mile section that was missing for, if you recall, the forest, or Marvin Weinberger had petitioned the Forest Service to have the town of Waterville Valley sponsor this effort. And so that has been done. And so right now we are talking and collecting letters of support for this to be done, and you know, what the economic impact could be for Waterville Valley. So we're sort of in that phase. Just the big news is that we were able to map that section, which was the first request from the Forest Service.
And that's the remaining 5 miles of the 50-mile loop around the town, around the peaks of the
Yeah,
town.
and
Yeah.
exactly. And there are some, you know, some alternative routes that Brenda Conklin's been very helpful in this process as well, to try to stay out of the certain areas that are making it more difficult for us to accomplish this. But as we learn more information, we will keep, you know, we'll keep you up to date and keep reporting it. But it is moving along, albeit a little bit slower than Marvin would like, of course. But you know, we are moving this along as fast as we can with the Forest Service.
Well, it is important too, because it'll be a big marketing piece that we'll be able to use in our hiking programs if we can get the Forest Service to support this 50-mile loop, because it's going to be one of the longer loops in the White Mountain National Forest. So it should be helpful to bring hikers into the valley. And there'll be different, as Brooke said, there'll be different access points up to the loop from the center of town. So the focus will be on the center of town to utilize the loop. So hopefully we can get people to use it.
Yeah, and this would be a huge accomplishment. I mean, we're still, you know, a little ways out from it, but it definitely would be a big accomplishment. So that's all I have. I guess I'm just looking for your final blessing on doing these programs in the rec department during that New Hampshire week.
I think it's great that we can finally get back in there, even if it's only for a week, Brooke. I don't know whether anybody else has a comment.
Nope. Concur, absolutely.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
all right. Who else? Chris? Chris and Dave?
Hello. So for the finish off the COVID update, overall, the state is on a downward trend now. We had a peak around the beginning of January, but it's trending down now. Most of our members have had at least their first vaccine. Several have already gotten their second vaccine. We continue to test with rapid tests our members, and ski patrols included in that now. We have so far had 0 positive tests. And I think some good news from the state. The state's doing a great job with the vaccine effort. To date, they've done almost 50% more of the people that have actually contracted COVID-19. So I think there are close to 90,000 vaccines out now. So that's all good news. We'd like to put it out there too, that if anybody in town who qualified in the demographics for the current vaccine distribution, if they need help or a resource and guidance to sign up for that, please reach out to us. Also, we're happy to report that Corporal Vermeersch is back on duty. He came back on Monday. So that's good news for us. Other than that, the mountain has kept us a little busy. And there's been, a slow increase in activity around town. So that's all good news. Dave, did you want to talk about anything?
on the phone.
Okay, so one other thing is that the noise ordinance that's been supplied to you for the warrant, that's just a housekeeping issue. The selectmen or a board of selectmen a few years ago already accepted it. We just never brought it to town meeting. So that's for your review for the warrant. And I believe that Mark sent copies of that out. And other than that, it's just, wading through this storm, and hopefully in the springtime, we'll have better times. Anybody have questions or?
It's great news about Andy.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah,
great
happy
him
to
back.
have him back.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Jim?
Where's Jim? Jim, you're up.
Not much to report since the last time. It's been pretty quiet, as we all know, weather-wise. Things are going well. Cruising, everybody's healthy. Equipment is mostly good. We're waiting on a part for the sidewalk tractor, and it's only a bearing and an O-ring, but it's been 2 weeks or more trying to get these parts and get them shipped to us. And that's about it. It's amazing that there's so many warehouses that are pretty much shut down and you can't get stuff. So it seems to be the trend.
All right, Dylan.
Hello. Everything's been pretty busy. Consistent flows. It's we don't really see those lows as I've mentioned previously. On a good note, we did get the chemical feed stations. We're still waiting on the chemical feed pumps for well 2. Hopefully those will be here within a week or so. The shipping has been delayed a few times now. We did have an issue up at the reservoir with our PLC. We lost communications from there, so we had to have A&D Instrument come out and repair that. But other than that, everything's running smoothly. You muted, Margaret.
Any questions for any of the staff members?
Dylan, did I hear you say that the pump 2 will be back online in a couple of weeks? Did I understand that correctly?
I would like to say yes. As long as
It wasn't
we
a
get
trick question.
As long as we get our chemical feed pumps, we'll be all set.
Right. Okay.
Hey, and nobody has anything else. Let's go on to our calendar review and also talk about our bond and budget hearings. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 10th. That is also the date that we are scheduling our bond and budget hearings. And we're doing that electronically, Mark?
In person with electronic.
Okay, because, and we're doing an in-person part because we've never received any guidance that said we could have a bond hearing electronically only.
The guidance is you can't do it exclusively electronically without
Okay.
using the drive-up voting. So there has to be an in-person component, but it is acceptable to have electronic participation in the hearings.
Okay. So that's going to be at the conference center on the 10th?
Yes,
And what time is that, Mark?
we scheduled it for 5:30.
5:30 on the 10th, which is a Thursday, correct?
No, the 10th is Wednesday.
Wednesday, it's a Wednesday. Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Let's talk a little bit and jump down the agenda a little, and because it is a calendar item, and talk about the 2021 meeting timeline.
Yeah.
When last we met, we were still not quite sure when we were going to have the bond and budget hearing, but we moved that to February 10th. And the planning board was nice enough to move their next informative meeting on the voting items to the 17th of February. We also at that meeting said that we were going to do our voting on the 9th as normal. So the school and the town will be doing their regular voting on the 9th. The school will also be doing their drive-up voting or walk-in voting on their warrant articles that day. And then we said we would schedule our deliberative session on Friday evening, the 12th at 5:30, correct? And if in fact we feel that there's an insufficient representation among voters at that meeting, that we would then adjourn that meeting to the 26th of March. And our intention is to have that available in person at the conference center. We will take appropriate measures to ensure social
Excuse me,
distancing.
Margaret, clarification, are you saying that the meeting on Friday night, the 10th, if we don't have enough people there, we're going to March?
No, the meeting on the 12th of March.
And
If
what
we
is on the
have-
12th of March?
That's the deliberative session.
That's town meeting?
That's the deliberative
okay,
session of town
gotcha.
meeting. Okay, so that was going to be on the 12th, but we had a discussion and said, gee, if we have less than 100 people and we can determine what the number is that are able to show up for that, we would delay it another 2 weeks to the 26th. And the specific reason for that was because we definitely wanted to have our town moderator and our our senior election officials available, and they are available on both of those 2 dates. And also, we had a concern that we wanted to make sure that we discussed some rather large bond articles, that we gave people the opportunity to discuss those in person. So the plan again was we would use the conference center. If we need to use more than one room, we would use more than one room. We would also broadcast the meeting, because when you have voting occurring during this meeting, some of that voting the voting has to occur in person, but people could still watch the meeting. And for instance, on the large bond articles, those have to be kept open for a full hour. So if people were voting, watching the meeting, and they didn't want to come in person, but they wanted to vote on those bond articles, they could come in and do so during that hour after the discussion of the bonds. So that's kind of where we are right now. And I just wanted to make sure that we had a final discussion on that before we, move forward and set the dates and announce them and all of that kind of thing.
All right. May I go on the record?
Sure.
I'd like to go on the record by saying this plan has got too many moving parts. And I think with moving parts, there's a possibility for people to be frustrated and feel they're not represented. If I would like to make the suggestion that we stick with the deliberative session on the 12th, and we adjourn the town meeting to the second Tuesday in May, which would give us the opportunity to be in a tent and outside and give everyone a chance to be there and participate from one space without the hammer of technology hanging over us. So I just want that on the record. Thank you.
Okay, I have a similar concern about moving the deliberative session. This is just my personal opinion. Again, because I'm not sure we will have our town moderator and senior officials available in the May timeframe. I haven't checked that out with them. But also, the further out that we move this, the more difficult it is for us to proceed with some of the engineering work. And maybe Mark, you can speak to that, what the delay would mean to us.
Well, if we put the deliberative session out to May, we can't enter any contract. So that would be the road project and the wastewater treatment plant project. We would basically have a 2-month pause, because as I just stated, we only have about 93,000 of capital monies available, which we want to retain for emergency purposes if we need it. So we basically would stop the engineering at this point until we get the bond, whether we know whether or not the bond issue is approved. So it would cause that delay, which just starts backing up the work and the timeline that's on that sheet that I included in the packet today, as far as laying it out for 21, 22, and 23. You know, we would be delaying that work. And as far as the road work, I mean, Jim can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we were out in May, I'm not sure we could get the final engineering work, get it out to bid, and get a paving contractor in here for work to be done in 21 on the roads. So some of that work that we have planned would be delayed till 22.
Mark, am I correct in remembering that in the past we put work out to bid subject to town meeting approval?
We
done that before?
Yes, if we have had.
Yeah, okay, so it's not out of bounds for us to do it with contractors bidding and people accepting the terms subject to our town approval.
For the contractor, yes, but we don't have any money to do the engineering, to do the plans.
Well, we have some money for engineering, and we do have money laying around, so it's not like we're going to $0 on this. So I just want to get all the facts out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a balancing act. I think I mentioned in the past, I was very concerned, as Mike put it, about some of the technical issues that could arise. I believe I mentioned Murphy is likely to make a presence. And I did notice that in anticipation of the passage of SB2 by the House, that the governor issued an emergency order, which does allow towns to move both their official ballot day and the deliberative session, the business session, up to 2 months. And I just wonder, and again, this is just a discussion, 4 months. Well, and in any event, thank you. I just wonder if, given the uncertainties about the vaccine rollout, I mean, that's the other side of the equation. And I just want to just put that on the table too. Might it not make sense to seriously consider moving this everything to May, where we can do it outside if we have to, and not rely on some kind of technical lash up on the 12th. I think the 9th will not be a problem. But I just wonder if we're courting, I don't want to say disaster, but we're asking for it if we don't do that. Again, this is the other side of the equation that Mark, you eloquently pointed out, the need to move as quickly as possible as well. So I think this is what we got to consider. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to people, or people haven't talked to me about their feelings about our proto plan to move forward in basically the second week of March, as we were discussing. So if anyone has any feeling or information about that, I'd be very receptive to hearing it.
The one thing you should be aware of under the governor's emergency order is that if in fact we have to move everything, both the voting and the deliberative session, according. Meryl, I'm sorry, Mark, you told me before when we were talking about this that we had to move both.
that is what town council has said. However, Marilyn did point out to me this afternoon that there is some question about that because NHMA's guidance says that we can split and have the voting on the 9th and the deliberative session separately. I've gone back to town council to clarify with them because what they told me was if we moved it under the emergency order, we had to move both the voting and so there is disagreement right now between the attorneys at NHMA
Right,
and
but
the town attorneys.
But Mark, what I think we're seeing here is we are not the only small town or large town in New Hampshire that is dealing with this as far as the mechanics of town meeting, the mechanics of bidding things, the mechanics of creating bonds. You know, we're not going to be the only ones out, you know, fielding this storm by ourselves.
No, I understand that. And so Margaret, to answer your question, that is that disagreement between the two right now.
Okay,
And 2 months, all it's going to do is delay what work we can get done. And if you guys want to extend it for 2 months, we will make it work. But it has the potential for preventing us from doing some of the work in 21 that we want to do. That's all. That's the bottom line from my perspective.
There's another there's another caveat I think that works in favor of moving forward earlier, as you're proposing, Mark, and that is this is I call it an executive fiat. It's an emergency order that anticipates what will be passed by the House and therefore made into law. It might not happen as anticipated, and the emergency order does say that whatever is passed will govern, not the emergency order. So if we go down that route, we are going to open ourselves up to something that isn't quite formalized yet. And I think our time is short to make a decision. As I understand, Marilyn, I see you shaking your head, so I'd appreciate.
That's not quite right. The very
Okay.
last paragraph of the emergency order gives you some room. It does say that if there is a contradiction when the House passes Senate Bill 2, which is supposed to be early February, that if you've already made plans and postponed, that you can proceed with emergency order 83 instead. So,
Okay.
so that'll be okay. That part will be okay if we've made solid plans and we've already publicized it.
All right. Thank you.
Marilyn, your availability, I know you're not available in April. In May, are you still away as well?
Yeah, I'm going April and May.
Okay.
But hey, maybe we could find a great new town spokesman moderator. I'm okay with that. Just saying.
Well, we need
Jeannie's
to
on
get,
here.
go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, sorry. Jeannie's on here somewhere. I don't see her on my screens, but that would be another question. She's a real key player as well.
Yep.
And we haven't heard from Terry. Are you available in May, Terry?
Yeah, it's all right with me.
Yeah. Okay. So then I'll put the question to Jean in the chat. I don't know what she's doing. She's multitasking apparently.
This also a question I also have, Marilyn, is with this, if we were to move it, I presume the school board is going to go forward with its schedule under the House bill that was passed, the alternative method. Would this simplify what you will have to do on March 9th if we were to move the town official balloting off of that date?
No, it greatly increases our work, but I'm 99% sure that based on the copious amount of daily emails that I get from the moderators, that the two official ballots, for that being for school and for town, can still take place on March 9th. And then we can have the deliberative session whenever you guys, you
Right.
know, whatever best.
Well, I was
Yeah.
thinking, as I understood your plan, you were planning also to use a provision for the town ballot to be given to people as absentee ballots in their car. Is that correct? Or will they have to come into the under the accessibility, the widening of accessibility?
Right. So that's called drive-through voting. So we're going to provide both at the conference center on March 9th. At least that's the current plan. Yeah.
Does the town ballot have to be an absentee ballot in that case?
Doesn't have to be an absentee ballot.
Yes, it
I'm
does.
not sure what your question is.
Well, I thought that, as I understood it when I was reading it and trying to get my head around all these moving issues, is that the town ballot is not part of the alternative method. It is the traditional method, which does allow for accessibility. That is someone from coming up to the ballot and saying, I want to vote, but I don't want to go inside. And the change they made because of COVID allows them to do that. But it has to be treated as an absentee ballot, not as a ballot that they're handed, filled out, and then give back. That's why I thought it may be more complicated if we had it on the same day, because you'd be handling 2 school warrants as regular ballots outside, as well as an absentee ballot for the town ballot, plus people inside doing their normal balloting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. You know, that's a really good point. I don't know whether that has to be, because it doesn't say anything in that emergency order 83 about having to call that an absentee ballot. It did in the fall. You're right. The emergency orders that we were under last, in 2020, it was supposed to be absentee.
The conduct of the official balloting piece has to be the same as the general election in the fall, which Rich is, I think, correct in that has to be treated as an absentee ballot for the town portion, because we're not part of the drive-up voting alternative method.
And to further complicate it, we have quite a large official ballot. I don't know how many articles we have at this point. Mark, do you know off the top of your head? 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Zoning issues mostly?
Zoning issue. There's 7
Yeah.
zoning issues plus the elections. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll handle that if we have to do it. I'd rather get both official ballots, school and town, done on the same day rather than having to call up all the election officials and have them give up another day.
Yeah. That's
gonna
the
give
other
up-
aspect of that.
Right. They won't have to give up an entire day if we just do the deliberative session, but they will have to be there for the deliberative session. Because we're going to have to have people checked in, and we're going to have at least 2 written ballots monitored for the 2 bond issues, plus whatever else is requested to be a written ballot.
Yeah. But so we're thinking, well, we don't know whether we're going to do that on March 12th or June
Right.
7th.
Yeah.
26th or May 10th or whenever.
How about July? I really like July. It should be a beautiful night. We'll have.
Yeah.
Well, that would put us in real trouble in getting any work done this year. Jean, the question was, are you going to be here in May? Yep, you're muted, Jean. You're muted. Go ahead. You're okay now.
Yeah, I was unmuted. Anyway, not the first week, but I will be here the second week. I have some concerns about, I don't like the idea of holding it on 2 separate days, because that means, as Marilyn says, we're working from 11 to 7, 2 different days. And, we have the voting for the school election and the town election on different days. But the other problem is that, and you have to remember that people are not permitted to register at the supervisors aren't in session. So they're not permitted to register at the school board election, on the 9th or the day before usually. Anyway, so they'll have to, if they want to register, they'll have to register on the town election. And if that means they're going to register for the town election, that's going to take more time And then if they want to vote, they have to absentee ballots, and that's going to take more time. So one person that tries to stay in their car and register, well, it'll only be for the town election, because if they haven't registered, they won't be able to vote in the school board election. I mean, it gets very complicated, but anyway, so we may have one person that's going to be sitting there for half an hour, 45 minutes, filling out their absentee ballot and then registering to vote and then doing all of this so they can stay in their car.
Outside. Yeah.
Outside. Yes,
Yeah.
outside. Well, I'm thinking, I mean, we may end up having a ballot clerk hanging around the door from 11 until 7 so that she can go out and take care of ballots for people who want to stay in their cars. And where we're going to do it is another matter, because, and we don't know how many, but if there's a lot of people, we may end up having very long lines. You know, we'll have to line them up in the parking lot and then have them come over to the circle where we can probably put in about 6 cars at a time. If we try to do it in the parking lot where they park over there, we're going to be running all over the place. It'll just be chaos, you know, getting ballots to people, getting registration forms to people, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So I still think I feel like we have a little work to do on it.
Yeah, I think, again, boy, are we asking for Murphy to really whack us in the side of the head.
Excuse me, Gene. In a perfect world with these constraints we're facing, what would you like to see happen to make this process go forward from your experience?
What I'd like to see happen is have most people just come smoothly through the conference center.
No. I wasn't talking about fantasies. I was talking about.
I honestly don't know. If we really wanted it smoothly, the best way would be to have 2 separate elections. Then we would know exactly what we're doing with each one, and that would be smoother. But that's going to be more work for all of the election officials. You know, we'll all have to be there for the 2 days. And if it's still held in February, you know, close on to whatever, so we can take care of the budget issues for the town, then we still end up with people being very cold. But I think that if we do it that way, my guess is that we won't have very many people doing drive-by for the town meeting. I don't know. And maybe we won't have very many people going by for the school. That's part my question is, you know, could we ever estimate what we're faced with? Nobody seemed to have a problem coming in during the November election.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we sort of have a good plan now. The only thing that we need to work out is when the selectmen feel is the ideal time to have the deliberative session portion of town meeting. And I think the zoning issues, you know, the election officials, things that are voted on, town officials that are voted on by official ballot can all be done on March 9th. You don't have to delay that. We're going to be sitting there anyway. And the only last piece will be what to do about the deliberative session, you know, how to stage it and what day to have it.
Yeah, we already determined we wanted to have the deliberative session on a different day because there's no way we can set up for the election the way we set up last November and get that taken down and set up for the deliberative session on the same day. So that was what drove us to try a deliberative session on the 12th. And again, if we got an insufficient number of people, move that to the 26th.
Has anyone any sense in talking to people about their views of when to do this?
I have no sense of it at all.
Neither do I.
All I know is that anybody that I've asked in the Valley, whether they're signed up for a vaccination, they are. That doesn't include very many people, but.
I've had people ask me about the process, and that's why I brought up and wanted to go on the record about doing it in May, because people were looking at a couple of factors where it will be warmer, more people will be vaccinated in a perfect world, as opposed to if we do this, you know, what's the participation going to be? And when I mentioned breaking it into separate rooms and trying to control it that way, I just don't see it as being controllable without professionals running it.
So what part of that, Mike, is your concern? And what do you mean by professionals running it?
Well, if we have a moderator who's trying to deal with the floor and 2 other rooms, and people who are at home looking at this and feeling they're not being represented, and people trying to send in messages, because if you have someone in a room, will someone at home be able to send in a message like they would at one of our meetings here?
No.
No.
Or a question?
So
But I think that's got to be made clear to people, because that wasn't clear to me until now, that if you don't attend, you have no voice.
Well, no, you
True.
can vote. You can vote on those ballots.
But the thing is, you can't discuss them. You know, are we talking? I'm talking about the deliberative session. I'm not
Yes,
talking about the voting.
the deliberative session.
I'm talking about people where it's a cold night, they haven't been vaccinated, they're afraid of COVID. They don't want to go inside to a place, like people don't want to go into a restaurant. Our voting for the November election didn't require people to sit for a long time in a room with a lot
In
of
and
other
out.
people.
Yeah.
You
In
know,
and out.
that's the thing, it was in and out.
Okay.
But if we're going to have this, and if we have to have other rooms, you know, I think it could evolve to chaos if we have a highly debated point on any of this stuff, or someone might not feel that they've been given the time they need, because we could be there for days trying to figure this out.
Marilyn, could you correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that the process was that there would be one hearing or meeting or whatever, where it would be by Zoom, everybody could attend, and the question would be up to the selectman and the moderator whether they wanted any comments at the time.
No,
All
No.
of-
That's the school district. That's the way that they're doing it.
that's
And
an
then
method.
would they talk
Yeah.
about the warrant sections then, would then be,
So the
Okay.
reason, yeah, the reason it's so confusing for everybody is that the school district annual meeting is going to be done in that virtual format with the 2 meetings followed by a written ballot. But the town is choosing to do it more in the traditional format, which currently what we're discussing looks kind of like at the way the SB2 towns do it, where you have your deliberative, well, I guess that's not fair. Only official ballot will take place on March 9th, and then the deliberative session will be on the 12th of March or the 12th of May, June, July. It can be April, May, June, or July, according to this new emergency order. So that's the only part that we'd be doing differently for town is delaying the deliberative session of town meeting.
I think that applies to the town meeting also, according to the guidance issued by NHMA.
No, if you have an in-person deliberative session, you must have in-person public hearings. You cannot do an all virtual public hearing if you're going to do in-person voting. The only way that you can do the virtual public hearings is if you do the drive-up voting like the school district is doing. Right, Marilyn?
Well, I wouldn't categorize it as drive-up voting. I'd categorize it as traditional voting, where you come to the conference center like you did in the fall.
Well,
but it will include drive-up, yes.
It has to include the alternative ballot,
Yeah.
yes. So we can do other meetings and we can take public input virtually on the warrant articles, on the warrant articles and on the bond issues and all of that. We can, if we hold a public or a public hearing in person, we can also do other virtual meetings and take people's input and have additional discussion if you want to before the deliberative session. Whether we do it in March or May or whenever, we can have as many meetings as we want and take as much input as we want from people. That's what the planning board is doing on the zoning amendments. They're having additional meetings. It's just what counts as the official public hearing has to be in person.
You're talking
It's,
about the bond and the budget hearings.
Yeah, the bond and the budget hearings, right.
Yeah. I,
go ahead,
you-
Marilyn.
this might be the only time in my life, so maybe somebody should be taking minutes that I might agree with Mike Aronson. So I would like to, I mean, my personal feeling is I would like to head it out to May or even June, but I don't understand, the budgetary issues. I mean, I know, I heard you say earlier that we have that almost $300,000 in the unfunded balance. Mark, could that help you to get the things done that you wanted to do if we delayed the deliberative session? Also in the emergency order 83, it says that you are entitled to spend monies if you do delay your town meeting, your deliberative session of town meeting. If you do delay it, let's say all the way up to June, that you can still spend monies in the same amount as last year's budget.
No, yeah, but we're talking, my only concern is our capital projects. That the operating budget, that's fine, we can continue to spend. But we can't, on these big bond issues, we can't spend any of that money until it's appropriated. And that's for me, that's the issue. And
Yeah.
as I said, all we're doing is whatever amount of time we delay the deliberative session is just going to get tacked on to our projects. And there may be some work that we won't be able to do that we were planning to do in 2021. So if we want to delay it till May or June or whenever, that's fine. We won't do the work. That's all on those particular projects.
Yeah, so that's the part of the equation I don't have a handle on.
Like said, we have some existing capital monies. We have account balances. And if we want to take that money and do the engineering work, if that's what the board decides to do, then we will continue to do the engineering work and we'll continue to do as much as we can.
But that money is also used in the event that we have an emergency?
Some of it, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just have to balance that out. And we are talking about a couple or 3 months is, 60 to 90 days is what you're talking about, the delay. So we can make do with how you want to do it. There just is that possibility of not getting stuff done, that's all.
And again, to go back to the issue of the town ballot being an absentee ballot, I know I'm raising it, but I just want to make it clear that I do worry about that. There are a lot of planning board amendments there. And it sounds to me it's going to be very complicated having both elections done at the same time and two different methods at play. Now I see you shaking your head, Marilyn, but it seems to me the KISS principle really works well here. 2 separate elections on 2 separate days would be the way to go. But obviously that's my version of a perfect world, and I'm just one vote out of 3.
Well, I think I'm hearing from Marilyn that in spite of the supposed complexities, they believe that it would be better to try and do all of the voting that we can do on one day.
Yes. It's just the official ballot for town, and that stuff it's the zoning issues and the election officials. It's nothing critical. It's not like bond issues. And and I understand completely what you guys want. You want the townspeople to be there for the deliberative session to understand why this is going to hurt their pocketbooks, but they've got to do this, the water treatment project. They've got to do it. And that's why you want them to attend. And that's different, you know, with the school on their alternative ballot, so that there'll be 3 ballots on March 9th. There'll be the 2 official ballots, one for town, one for school. And then there'll be 1 alternative ballot, which is for the school district. And basically they just have 1 warrant article, really. It's just their school budget that people are voting on. So it's those 3 things. And we have those on a normal day when we do second Tuesday in March. We have those during it's not usually 8 hours. It's usually, usually used to do it less hours than that, but it's the same pretty much. So, and we'll work out the issue with the absentee. You know, we had to do that in the fall, so we'll work that out again. The only thing I'm concerned about is that nobody gets frostbite, none of the election officials.
Yeah.
I'm confident that we can do it, Rich. It won't be easy. It was a
Okay.
big project in the fall. It was much more than I signed up
Right.
for.
I think it's going to be very complicated again. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
With 3
unreal
ballots.
that they haven't, the SB2 hasn't even been passed by the House, and isn't going to happen until at the latest early February, when the town election is supposed to take
ridiculous.
place in March. Like, everything will
Right.
be in place
Ridiculous.
by then. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But it was like that in the fall, so it's what we expected we would see. At least they did this, you know, the emergency order 83 was helpful.
Yep, I agree.
And, you know, with respect to some of the concerns that Mike is raising with respect to coordination, when we have our deliberative session, I can definitely envision a situation where we have a monitor in each room, whose job it is to find out when people have questions or want to raise issues, and to either escort them or to direct them to the main conference room where they can make their comment on any of the things that come up. So Marilyn would be running the meeting in the main conference room. The monitors would be responsible for keeping track of people that wanted to make comments and getting them sent to the room at the point in time when they're able to go up to the microphone and make their comment. I don't know that it's that difficult to broadcast a meeting from one room to another. I don't know, it's more complicated, but if you have people that are really concerned about being in a meeting room for that period of time, again, there's the opportunity for them to do what they did in the election: come in, register, go back to their car, watch the meeting on Zoom, and at the point in time where it's time to vote, they could come in and do their voting, especially on the bond issues. Maybe not so much on the others, but yeah.
It'll be really critical that we are able to broadcast that live
Right.
during the deliberative session. And I don't know how good our technology is, but that'll be absolutely imperative.
Right.
You know, I'm not thrilled about, you know, I've been to a restaurant and into a restaurant once in 8 months, and I had a private room. Am I thrilled about going into a conference center and sitting with people who are going to be moving around, delivering their votes? Am I thrilled for the people who are sitting there taking the votes at that table? The 6 feet distance, I don't think we're going to be able to keep the distances we need to. You know, and it could also affect the amount of people that actually come out and vote.
Okay, so we need to give Mark some guidance. I will go on the record to say that I have confidence that we can handle a deliberative session on March 12th or March 26th. But you know, there are 3 of us on the board, so we need to go with what the majority want to do.
I would like to see it kicked out where it can be safer and more participants.
I'm with Mike on this.
Okay, so what does that mean? May?
May's good.
Is it possible to have it the second week in June? or the first week. I think it has,
It's either going to be the second Tuesday of May or the second Tuesday of June or the second Tuesday of July.
okay, so that'd be June 9th.
Well, the thing about it, I think
June 8th.
once we get to June, I kind of agree more with Mark's point about being able to get work done and things done. I think May is different than June.
So either May 11th or June 9th or June 8th.
Yeah, June 8th.
May 11th.
Okay. The majority is saying May 11th, so that's your decision there, Mark.
Okay, so
Well, I won't be here. So that's a mess for somebody. But I think that the decision,
we do need to know where you want to do it because we have to put a location on the warrant that we're going to post. So you've either got to say Packard's Field or the Conference Center or the Waterville Valley Elementary School gym, or you got to pick a place of where you.
Can I ask one more thing, Mark? With respect to the bonds,
Yeah.
are we relieved of our responsibility to have the bond hearing within 60 days of the vote?
I don't know. I've got to ask town council.
it
Okay,
says,
so we
in the
can,
emergency order that all those dates can be moved.
Yep, but Marilyn, now that we are doing the voting, we are starting the town meeting, the official balloting on March 9th.
Mhm.
I don't know what that means for the
Right.
60 days.
Yeah.
So I need to talk to bond counsel and find out when we're going to hold these hearings now. Because we're basically splitting our meeting now. So I don't.
Can I bring up a quick second, Mark, and maybe we can table this for a couple of days?
Yeah, I think that,
Is there a way that we can get some kind of technological proposal to us in a couple of days so we can walk through the feasibility of this and present this, out informally to people? Because I see Maryland's not being here is an issue, and I see going to June as being an issue. But I do want to see the most people participate. So if you can find some kind of technology that we can talk about that exists that we can lock in, I'm willing to kind of relook at it. If we can spread, but who knows if that'll even work. But the other part, Gene, how do you feel about having people vote the way we've been voting at town meeting and dropping votes off to you people and keeping distance? Do you see a viable way of doing this with keeping people COVID safe?
You're unmuted, Gene. Go ahead. You're good. We can hear you.
I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. I just was going to tell you that I talked to, oh, God. Okay, there we go. Anyway, that I talked to NHMA, Municipal Association, and one of their attorneys, and he said that the provisions of HR 1129 will apply to our town meeting as well as to the school board, and that we do have a different option of how to operate it. That there can be the Zoom meeting and the presentation of the warrants, then a period in between for people to comment on, and then another meeting at which the final decision that the selectmen make is presented, and that's
But
what
Gene,
is.
we're not using 1129 for the town meeting portion. We're using the emergency order 83.
Okay, well,
Mark, you're frozen, I think.
No.
No. You're
I think
frozen,
you're
Mike.
frozen.
Mike. Yep, you dropped off, Mike. So everyone understands, right? We are not using 1129 for the town portion.
correct. But the school district is using 1129.
That's
That's
correct.
where
Correct.
the confusion comes in.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that was my concern, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Gene, Mike's question, I think, is very valid. If we could figure out the technology so that we were comfortable that everyone was participating and everyone was being heard, right? Do you think the election officials, as far as conducting paper ballots during the town deliberative session and having people move around in the meeting space, is going to be acceptable? That's what Mike asked. Okay, because that's something we're going to need to have that ability to file those paper ballots.
Well, as long as we can do we have to do the 6 foot, and mask requirement and the 6 foot social distancing.
Well, I
The
think
prob-
that's what Mike is asking. Are you comfortable? He asked you, are you comfortable doing that if we have the deliberative session in March?
In person. In March, in person.
Yes, March 12th or March 26th.
Yeah, we will all be in that room for some time.
Yeah. Well, how many people do you think we can sit that way?
Well,
I mean, my concern that we
It's
won't
not
have-
just a sitting when people get up to ballot and
Getting
people
up to-
queue.
They'll have to
ballot.
go, they'll have to go. See, and that will be different because, during the election, 11 to 7, we had people coming in slower. This will be a whole line of people.
yes, it will. Yes,
And
it
if there's
will.
300 people there, 200 people.
Well, I think we can safely assume around 100.
There are a lot of new residents that might want to get
Oh, I
involved. We
don't
might
think
be
that-
overrun and surprised.
Well, we
I
may.
think a lot of the people that have come into town are young people and they're very interested in participating in everything. Maybe doing the things that we're doing, but I mean, I think the voting part will be considerably
So-
more than 100.
Yeah. We're up to 460 odd registered voters. Is that right, Gene?
No, it's four, well, we just took some dead wood off, or we're in the process of.
I
doing
beg
it.
your pardon.
Excuse my language. These people are, in fact, all of them are alive. They just
So-
moved on.
Okay.
Anyway, but I think that we're around a little over 400.
Yeah,
400.
so again, going back to Mike's question, would you be comfortable as an election official doing the balloting that way?
I would be comfortable doing it. The only thing I can say is that it's going to be very timely. That's all.
Okay,
But
So
here's
that-
another question.
How many people are there? But Margaret talked about the fact that if there were only 100 out of 400 some voters, or 600 some residents, I guess 400 some.
That's right.
voters.
And others beside voters can show up, of course.
Right. So at a minimum, we have to
Oh,
provide
everybody-
a safe environment for 400 registered voters. So
Yeah.
what is the capacity of the building with 6 foot separations?
Well, it wouldn't all be 6 foot because a lot of people would be coming in couples and stuff. So.
Yeah, but still, let's look at 400 registered voters. So at a minimum, you have to provide 400 people a space.
In theory, yes.
Yes. I'm talking theoreticals, not actuals, but
We never set up for even 50%, so I don't think that's quite right, Mike. I mean, if we set up for 200, I don't think we'd even achieve that, but say 200 instead of 4. Because we get usually on, until COVID hit, 100.
but
It's
even.
true, but this time we have a really, I think the largest, Mark, bond in town's history. So a lot of factors that it's hard to calculate how they're going to play out.
So,
I'm not comfortable with having a live deliberative session, but that's why 2 weeks ago when we talked about this, I said, I'd rather see you guys doing the same format that the school is doing, using the 2 virtual meetings followed by a written vote. But I understand, I understand your concern. So, you know more about that, and I'm willing to go forward that way. I wanted to say that we're facing, I don't know if this number is going to change, but like a 43% increase in the school budget.
Mhm.
And so if they're voting on that on Tuesday, and I'm thinking, from the numbers that I, at the school board that I last attended last week, that Mike Capel and Mike Frogel showed me, in my taxes, just for school alone,
Mhm.
that'd be another $1,200 on my tax bill for the
Mhm.
year, at least. And so you're gonna get a lot of angry voters by the time they hit the deliberative session going, you gotta be kidding, you know?
That's the point I'm making about everyone has
Exactly.
to feel they've had the right to be heard out. Because you're gonna get people that are there that don't have a view on the bonds, they just want to vent.
Yep.
Yeah, but they can do that in a virtual meeting.
Yeah, but you've got to get them the microphone and they've got to, if they vent and they feel they haven't vented loud enough, you know what it's like on the regular meeting where some people have to reiterate their point 3 or 4 times.
That's why we have a time limit.
If we did 5 minutes this time, though, well,
So Mike, I think you wanted to table the vote for a day or two? Is
I
that-
think so, because I would rather have this done quickly, soonly, and safely if we can. But, you know, my concerns are there. Let's try to work, if you believe my concerns are valid, can we give it a few days to see if we can make these concerns, you know, more understandable and more explainable to the voters?
Is it even doable? I mean, what you're asking?
Would
kind
it,
of
would it
insurance.
help? Would it help if we, like say the selectmen and maybe Terry and me and Jeannie, if we had a meeting over at the conference center and stood there physically and looked at the big room and then the room in the back?
That's part 1. Part 2 is the technology.
Yeah.
And part 3 is still getting people inside
Right.
in larger numbers, even just to vote, if they don't stay in there.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mark, do you think those assurances are really possible at this point?
It is your personal feelings. If you do not feel safe, then we can't do it. If people are gonna work with us, I think we can do it. I think we can get it set up. But if people don't have the right attitude towards it, it doesn't matter what we set up. And it doesn't matter if the audio visual is perfect, it's not gonna work. Or you're gonna be very limited to a smaller number of people than we're probably gonna be comfortable with.
Well, if you wait until June, if that didn't affect the economics of your bond and so forth, then a lot of people would be vaccinated by then.
If we wait till June, we will not have any bond money until next year. Because
And I wonder how many people will be here in June. Yeah.
right, and we will not make the July bond sale.
No, I get you on that. That's why I'm thinking May is acceptable, June is not.
Okay.
And if we set May today, that's fine. Like I said, we'll just go back into the capital reserve accounts that we have, and we'll get done the work that we can get done. However, you have to pick a place, whether you have to make a decision on whether you're gonna do it outside or whether you're gonna do it inside, because that's gotta be posted with the warrant now.
Mark, correct me, but we will then be operating on last year's budget with last year's current officers up until the town.
No, well, again.
Reasonable changes to operating budget and new officers take over.
Right, but as far as the officers are concerned, what I'm hearing you say is we're gonna do that on March 9th.
Yeah.
Okay, so the only issue is gonna be when we.
The deliberative, okay, just the deliberative session being moved.
Right,
Okay.
the only question that I can't answer right now is the public hearing dates. Because we're doing we're extending the deliberative session, but we're technically starting town meeting on March 9th.
Okay.
Right, so we'll find out what the, and Mike, or everyone, are you comfortable with doing the in-person public hearings the way that we have planned at the conference center? And then do additional
Video,
meeting?
do it a hybrid.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
okay, because
Yeah, I don't see any way around that.
yeah, we do have to do an in-person component.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just have to have someone on top of the hybrid part monitoring the questions and feeding them.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
In this process, Mark, what is the drop date for us to actually make a decision in order to get the warrant out in time?
The drop date is February 10th.
For the warrant to be published?
Well, that's when you have to vote on the warrant so that we can get it posted and so that
Right.
you can get it in the town report.
And what about for posting when and where the meetings are? What, is that the 10th as well?
No, it's
I think that's what Rich was
the
asking.
end of
Yeah, I'm
this,
sorry.
you
Yeah.
have until Friday to make a decision on where you're gonna hold the public hearings on the bond and the budget.
No, I'm talking about the deliberative session.
Well, I
When
don't
do-
know because I don't know what town council is gonna say we have to do.
Okay, so why don't we table this until we hear from town council and reconvene electronically as a workshop to figure this out and maybe walk through the conference center and talk about technology. Maybe there's a technology person at the conference center who knows what their capabilities are in the building.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
Hallelujah.
Just to make sure I understand, if in the deliberative session, normally what takes place is you're in a big room, people are handed out these red cards, they vote visually, and they're counted, and the decision is made. But it seems to me at this point, if I understand it correctly, there's going to be an audio-visual type session. People can look in on the meeting. There's going to be people there physically, and there's going to be people outside that can vote by a driver. The logistics of counting those votes, that's not
No.
correct?
No. We're just stick to the deliberative session, Terry.
Okay, but you've
Just
got to
the
be
warrant.
voting on the bond issues, right?
Yeah.
The voting
In
on the bond
secret.
issues is during the deliberative session, and that has to be in person.
Right. And that's in secret. I don't think we hold up.
No, that's a written ballot.
Right.
Okay, so
Ballot box being open an hour. The only
So-
thing we were talking about, Terry, is broadcasting town meeting so that anyone who didn't want to come into the deliberative session could listen to the discussion, and then when the bond ballot box opens, it's got to remain open for an hour. They could then drive to the conference center, check in and vote.
But there'll be other things they have to vote for. I
We've
mean,
always had that, we've always had that ability to do.
Right. But Terry, what the other part where you were correct with is if we can't get the space we need in the main room, we would open extra rooms in the conference center. And what I would think we would do is we would have someone, an election official, monitoring the vote in the other rooms when the ballots are asked to be raised, or if it is a raised
Right.
ballot, or with dropping the ballots off into the buckets.
and there are a number of them too. I mean, it's not just the ballot box. It's, I don't know, Mark, how many ballots how many articles are we actually voting for in deliberative session?
We have
We just do
20,
them.
we have 25, we have 25 on the warrant, right? Or no, 25 minus 8, so 17.
17,
17
either
different votes.
either in public or in a ballot.
That's
So
correct.
people have to come in and out
That's correct.
if
Mark,
they want to stay in.
So Mark, I know we don't have an answer from town council yet, but if we move the meeting to May 10th, do we then have to have another public hearing on the bonds within
That's-
60 days of that?
So what I would recommend is, why don't we continue on with our plan for February 10th? There's no reason to delay this or to, to wait. We will keep our schedule with the public hearings for February 10th. Okay.
12th.
Then, if town council says we have to have another public hearing because the deliberative session is later on the bond issue, then we can always hold another meeting, right? But the February 10th date, we know we need to do in case we decide to vote in March. Okay? It's not going to hurt anything, I don't think.
Yeah, you're right.
To have the hearing on February 10th.
Right.
And we can
Okay.
do other public informational meetings, and, we can keep talking about this as we go forward. So through the month of February. So I think we'd be good to go to just plan on doing February 10th.
Okay, but by this Friday, we have to make a decision about when we have the deliberative session and where.
Yes, and I can get that answer for you, and we can schedule a workshop to make that decision.
Okay. Well, okay,
Is that
well,
okay?
we'll
with
wait
everyone?
for the next exciting meeting on this topic.
And I'm hopeful I can do this quickly. So what's availability today and tomorrow for everyone?
Tomorrow and Friday, you mean?
I mean, tomorrow and Friday, sorry.
I'm available.
We're
I
all
guess,
house arrest.
Well, Rich isn't. Rich, what time are you available those days?
Tomorrow, say 5-ish or later. Friday, I'm driving back, so I'll just do it in a car, I guess, if I can keep a connection.
Okay, so Thursday, 5 PM or later?
Yeah, Thursday evening based. Tomorrow evening
Yeah.
would be better for
I
me.
have an 8 o'clock obligation on Thursday I can't get out of, so.
8 o'clock in the evening?
Actually, I have both ends tomorrow at 8.
Okay. Okay. So I'll try to do something Friday or tomorrow by 5 PM, around 5 PM. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
The governing body and the moderator, and I guess this is new to me, but the town clerk, and Terry, have the authority to continue to postpone. I know you don't want to do that, but you can continue to postpone indefinitely. A lot of towns have actually did that last year, because March, they then delayed like every 2 weeks, because you just have to post your meeting date, I think within you have 14 days before your meeting.
Yeah.
But
Well, under RSA 40, you're talking about. Yes.
yeah,
Yep. Okay.
All righty.
We'll do that.
We're done with that discussion, and we're going on to something else
For right now.
For now. Yeah.
for now. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the DRA Municipal Assessment Certificate Review and Approval.
Yep. This is the annual certificate. We've talked about the estimated mean ratio, I think, at a previous meeting. So where, as I put in your packets, the most recent draft report, we're at 107.5% on the mean ratio. So we're going to be somewhere around 107 to 108% when we get our equalization ratio back from the state.
And Mark, again, that means that properties are selling approximately 8% above their current market rate.
No,
That's right.
Yeah, they're selling about 10% higher than we currently have them assessed for. Because we've gone from 97 to 107.
Okay,
So we've seen about a 10% increase in property values. On average, that's not
Yeah.
that's not unique to every property.
Right. okay. I always love those numbers because I see them once a year and then I can never remember exactly what they mean the following year. So, yeah.
So
And what do you need from us on this, Mark?
I just need approval of it, and I'll need you to come in and sign the form so we can send it in.
Need
Just,
us to take a vote?
yes, I need you, your vote is to certify that the information we provided was accurate. And we've gone through it with the assessing agent, and it is our most accurate information that we have.
Okay, I'm going to move that having gone through our assessment information with our assessor, that we would like to certify the results. And can I have a second on that?
Mike, I'll second.
All right, all in favor, Margaret, aye.
Rich, I.
Mike, aye.
Okay, and we have to go in and sign that little puppy.
Yep, please.
Do you
Thank
have a deadline on that, Mark?
I don't see one on here, but if you could come in by the end of the week, that would be awesome.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark.
Is Monday okay for me, Mark?
Yeah, Monday's
Early
fine.
Monday morning?
Yeah, or by Monday, that's okay.
The tax map maintenance contract.
Yep, I just need the board to approve. It's comparable to what we paid in 2020. I think there's a slight increase in it. Basically, it's only $1,750. It's a contract to maintain our online tax map system, and then to update the tax maps as necessary based on building permits and that sort of thing. This is a contract we renew every year. No change in the company or anything like that. So I just need a board.
Wait, hold on. Can we see this year if they will include square footage in the information they provide on the assessing cards, please?
Okay,
Yeah, I've asked for this in the past.
okay. So hold off on taking a vote on it.
No, I would approve it anyways. They do a great job, but I'd like to see that that's increased, and if it can be, or whatever deals with it.
That may cost some more money, is what I'm
But-
thinking. They have to go
but-
back and do square footage.
Yeah, but it's not that difficult.
It should be pretty easy from our
Yeah.
GIS system, but
Yeah.
we'll check with
Yeah,
them.
it would make these cards a lot more useful to everybody. So we're really comparing apples to apples, because a lot of the times you've got great information, but the one thing you're looking for is how big is the place.
Yep.
Okay,
Gotcha, Mike. Okay, so we'll table that until our next get together.
Yep.
Okay. Initial 2021 town meeting warrant review. I gotta run to can you put that up, Mark?
I can.
'Cause I didn't see the noise before I got on. I didn't see the noise ordinance. I saw everything else.
Wait a minute.
It's way at the bottom, and it's not really the ordinance. I think people are going to wonder what we're talking about.
Can you see that?
Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's see. Oh, that's because I didn't hit the share button. How about now?
It's trying.
Something is coming.
Hey,
Yeah.
all right.
So I had already submitted, some questions, and I know this is the second draft.
I made your changes, Margaret.
Oh, okay.
I made
So
several edits.
The only thing that I didn't see then was what was added on about the noise.
24, yeah,
Yeah.
Article 24.
right there. And I sent you a separate PDF file of the actual ordinance itself. I think
Oh, okay.
we've talked about the ordinance before, and as Chris alluded to, this is, if you remember, we updated our ordinances a couple of years ago. The only thing we didn't do was bring this particular ordinance back to town meeting, because it is a town meeting vote that's necessary to make the official amendments. But this just brings it into line with RSA 3139 and makes it consistent with what we basically have in writing right now. Because
So there's no change to the ordinance
well,
itself?
remember, the 1988 version only addressed construction noise.
Okay,
We had gone back and we talked about the other sources of noise. And we talked about motor vehicles, the motorcycles doing burnouts and cars with loud engines and that sort of thing. We've added language to address those sources of noise. Okay, loud noises from residences, music, and that sort of thing. So we've gone beyond just the construction noise issue.
okay. I'm looking at it now.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding it, Mark. Can you throw it up there?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we expanded the construction activity to these two paragraphs, the first two paragraphs.
What? No singing
No singing. So
after 10?
well, no, so no obnoxious singing. If you're good at it, do it. So these are, again, words that are in state statute, but it just goes beyond just the construction.
Okay, well, I'm fine as long as Vlad can still do it. I'm a big opera fan, so if he can still do his opera after 10 p.m., I'm okay with that.
As long as no one complains, he can. And then
I think it looks great.
paragraph 4 and 5 are the motor vehicle, whether it's moving or standing still. So that covers the bleach burnouts during motorcycle week and all of that stuff.
This will be very helpful too, depending, assuming that our zoning amendments go through. It'll be good updates to both zoning and selectmen ordinance having to do with nuisance noise.
Right.
That we can get at two ways, zoning and selectmen ordinance.
Right. And then there is an exemption that the board is allowed to do on a case-by-case basis if you want.
Like fireworks. Now we have a separate ordinance for that, I think. Yeah.
No, there's a separate, yes.
Yeah.
So that's not covered in there.
Is this where weddings are allowed?
Yeah, you can, we'll
That's an
have
example of an exception we make, right?
That's correct.
After 10 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't have any,
I like it.
Okay. You have any comments, Mike?
No.
Okay.
and then the other question that I had is, do you want to have Article 21 as a separate article or include it in the legal line.
I sent you a response.
22.
I think put it in legal.
That's what I think too.
It's only $2,500.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unanimous. Yeah, legal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will move 21 to 22.
One less thing for people to hold up cards for.
There you go. Are you okay with this? Otherwise, anything else in the,
I didn't see anything else.
okay,
Everything we talked about.
all right, I'll stop sharing. Good. So all we will have left to do on the warrant will be the preamble for the deliberative session. Right?
To include a place, right? To include picking a location.
All right.
Nina and Tim, that would be covered under the construction and maintenance paragraphs. They had a question about leaf blowers and yard machines. That would be under the contractor work. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now is probably a good idea to specify electric machines because they make less noise. If you were from our town in Massachusetts, your ears would be ringing because there's such a high population level and they're all cutting their grass with massive machines and blowing. And you can avoid that right now.
What, by recommending electric machines?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's also environmentally better.
We should make them bring in sheep.
But
Bring in sheep.
that would be really good.
Yeah, I've got a
Why-
dog that can herd them.
Why did I even bring it up? I'm sorry.
What are you gonna learn?
It's been a long meeting already, Mike.
It
Yeah.
has. It has indeed.
All right.
All right.
We will
Let's
take that
see.
under
The next
advisement.
next thing is the Coalition Community Memorandum of Agreement.
So Portsmouth City Council did vote on Monday night. They have initiated the coalition group again. They're proposing the MOU that I put in the packet to have other towns participate. Right now, we're looking at if the current proposed legislation goes through, it's going to be anywhere from 32 to 70 towns that will be donor towns, depending on what funding plan passes. So we are, I'm sorry, 52 to 70. So we're part of either group. So I would recommend that we participate in this memorandum of understanding between Waterville Valley and the city of Portsmouth and the other communities. And then we've budgeted that amount of money as our share of any professional services going forward for the group.
Yeah, I thought our number was eye-popping, but 4.5 million, 4.2
Well,
million for some of these 2.7 million.
Yeah, that's just the excess swept
Yeah,
version.
yeah,
That's not even the increase swept.
right.
The
right.
city of Portsmouth, under the worst case scenario, is looking at $47 million.
Unbelievable. What did
That's
poor
how a lot of
Pittsburgh
these
do?
other,
I'm
that's how a
sorry.
lot of these other towns built new football stadiums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
No,
how did
seriously.
Pittsburgh end up here?
What?
No, I was going to say, what did poor Pittsburgh do to be part of this group?
They have no kids, and they have a lot of property value.
Ah, okay, no kids.
No kids, so they don't get to retain any swept because they don't have any kids.
I see. I can understand the other towns, they're resort
Yeah.
towns or
Yeah.
so forth, but I was wondering. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Mark, did they do anything in this legislation to prevent towns from taking the money and using it for something other than education?
No, Margaret, actually, they don't. The object of this is to lower the tax rates in those other towns. There's no provision that they have to spend the money for education. And in fact, as the finance director of Rochester, when we got our extra money in 1999, we bought a fire truck and added on to our police station, honestly.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
and they've done nothing to fix that, right?
no, they have not.
Yeah.
And we did give the city taxpayers a small tax break, but we got so much money in Rochester. And again, Nashua, Rochester, and Manchester are huge receiver communities. We could not physically spend, it was more than our total school budget in Rochester back in 98.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been on both ends of this, and it's very good when you're on the receiver end and very bad here.
So Mark, do you need a vote from us to,
To participate in
to,
the MOU, and
okay, I would move that we participate in the memorandum of agreement on the coalition community. Can I have a second?
This is Rich. I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, Margaret, I.
Rich, I.
Mike, aye.
who would you like to have as the town representative to attend the meetings for the coalition?
I would designate you.
Okay.
I would designate
I
you too.
I needed that to be on the record also. They're gonna ask, and there'll be a
Okay.
form, Margaret, for you to sign.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
let you know when we get that.
okay, great. All right, the road project.
Okay,
Can you put that one up too, Mark?
I think I can. Give me a moment, please. Sorry. Maybe. We are having computer problems again with the network. Judy, I can't. Judy or Sharon, can you access a copy of the road plan? Jim?
These are omens, Mark.
I know, sorry. I just,
It's okay.
I can't, I cannot get to it right now. But yeah, we are down other than our ability to talk to you via
Yeah, the
Zoom.
network's completely down.
So I cannot access this other than what I put in your packets.
Mark, where is it in that email? Is it towards the end of that?
Yes, it is. It's right after the school thing in the email.
Yeah,
I know,
Page
but
29.
I
page
can't,
29.
hold on.
Okay,
The
so
problem is,
I'm looking at it now.
No, not in
And
the packet in the road review.
wait a minute, I got it. Hold on. All right, I got it, Margaret. So
okay,
let me get back to sharing my screen here. All right, there you go.
There we go.
Tale of woe.
Yes.
Okay,
So basically, Mark, if I read this correctly, we have $900,000 in the capital improvement plan that we would like to bond. And we have another 175,000 that we still have for roads in capital. And this is, the highlighted ones are how we would like to spend the money in 2021, or the recommendation of how we should spend the money in 2021.
that's correct.
And part of the rationale for picking these is to take care of the roads that are not in terrible shape so that they don't get into terrible shape, and then to begin the process of restoring the roads that are in bad shape.
That's correct. Yeah,
And there are many roads that are in bad shape. It's something like 7
All of them.
miles or 7 miles out of our total 7.5.
that's correct.
But some of those roads are going to be subject to construction vehicles crossing them in the not too distant future. And so we don't want to repair those roads right now because they are going to experience additional damage.
Well, yes, that's one consideration. We're trying not to repair roads until we know, or have a better idea of potential construction traffic over them. That is a consideration.
Okay.
But we do want to try to do the entrance to town because that is deteriorating. That's Valley Road right here.
Right.
We're not going to do the entire $1 million. It's only a portion of Valley Road up to Tecumseh Road that we will do in 2021.
But that's where the money was allocated for. The money we have left over anyways
Right.
is earmarked specifically for that project.
That's correct. That's correct.
So we keep Valley, Tecumseh, and Snowsbrook.
That's right. In addition to these top 7 here.
Keep them from getting bad.
Keep them from deteriorating anymore. Hey, Jim, do you have anything you want the board to think about or talk about?
No, the only thing I'd say, Mark, is reiterate our discussion with Josh with HEB and our reasoning for the beginning of Valley Road and Tecumseh and Snows Brook is because it's already 90% engineered. We've got a pretty good handle on what needs to be done. It does go hand in hand with the monies that are left over from the putting the entrance sign, welcoming sign to town. And it also kicks off the idea of having shared pedestrian and bike pathways. And it addresses 3 of the sections of one whole road that needs to be reconstructed and sections of others that need to be done. So I think it's a project that everybody is already familiar with. So I think it makes common sense to proceed in this direction.
And I think, like I wrote in the packet, if we can do the application for the TAP grant or the build grant and try to tie this in with those grant funds, we may be able to extend that $900,000 into other roads.
Mark, at one point in time, the total estimate for redoing all of our roads was around 8 million, but you and Jim were going to be talking to the engineer about not doing a full depth reconstruction.
Right, and that's the out years in the CIP. We've put $300,000 in the other 6 years of the CIP. 300, except for the year when we build the wastewater treatment plant. So we would break the rest of these roads up into more manageable amounts because of the overall cost of the CIP. And when we do that, Margaret, we'll talk about roads. I mean, like Flat Mountain Road, Jennings Peak Road. I don't know if those will take full depth reconstruction, even though they're recommended here to be done that way. You know, there may be some of these that Jim, that we can talk about with Josh about not doing full depth here, which will lower the amount that it'll take to fix the roads.
And I know we don't have too many of the public on right now, but can you just explain what full depth reconstruction is versus other alternatives?
Go ahead, Jim.
Full depth, in this report, there are things that we can have conversations with the engineer about. And one of those is what type of full depth reconstruction for a section of road or the entirety of the road. Full depth reconstruction typically can range from the excavation of the removal of the pavement, the excavation of the subsurface materials or the subgrade materials, and placement of either, this is on the expensive end, roadway fabric and under drains and replace with new subgrade materials and then pave. Or it can be simple like full depth rehab of the road surface, a grinding of the road, if you will, and then regrade and overlay. So there's varying. Obviously, you go from, you know, very expensive to not quite as expensive. And there are sections of some of these roads that probably could just be, you know, some sections could be just overlaid. Other sections of it would need to be one type or another of full depth reconstruction.
Okay. And does the road last longer if you do full depth reconstruction versus some of these other alternatives?
Yes, typically it does, because, you know, you still have to do preventive maintenance just like anything else. But full depth, generally speaking, will give you a new road, if you will, which would last much longer than a road that you just did preventative maintenance or structural improvements to.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on this? Where is Jasinski Road?
Jasinski is up off of Snows Mountain Road.
Where Don lived. We
Yeah.
named it after him a few years ago, Margaret.
That's not how you spell his name, is it?
No,
No.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
we'll fix that.
Okay.
That's the other one. That's Jakinski Road.
Okay. Any other questions on this?
Nope.
So are we okay with leaving, we're
Good.
okay with leaving that on the warrant for the 900,000?
Yeah, and just explain to people that a lot of that work was pre-authorized, the money was saved, and we hadn't gotten to it yet.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Fiscal year 21 budget update, Mark?
Just more of what we've talked about. I think with the warrant, we've confirmed that the warrant is okay. We will continue to edit it if we find anything else. But Judy and I have been through it, and I'll make the change with the coalition community warrant articles, so, but it won't change any of the bottom line. So we have the, if you count both of the bonds along with the operating budget and all the capital accounts, which includes the 282,000 in use of fund balance, then the total appropriation is that $10 million number that's shown on the budget summary sheet.
Okay. Any questions from anyone on the updates?
I'm good.
Yep.
Okay. All righty, board concerns and directives?
Oh, wait a minute. I just wanted to get, I thought we'd talk about the projected debt service payments to the CIP.
Yes.
Well, this chart here, I think we
Sorry.
should look at this.
Yeah.
So Mark, the number you have here as estimated debt tax rate is what you're saying to our tax rate, the just not operating, just our debt service rate is going to be in those years.
Yeah.
Is that, am I correct with that?
Let me just pull it up, Mike, so everybody
Sure.
can see what you're talking about. Everyone see that?
Yep.
I
Good.
like it better in
So
blue.
what was your question, Mike?
So I'm looking at, if we look at 2026.
Yeah.
Or let's go to 2025. We're going to jump up to our tax, in our tax rate, you know, in saying 2021, $1.62 of our tax, or per, of our tax rate is going to debt service.
Correct.
And then you were saying in 2027, $6.26 will be
That's
going to
correct.
debt service.
Yes.
And that's with no new spending, just what is in your CIP, correct?
That's correct.
So the peak is actually going to be in 2027. And in a perfect world, by 2:45, which I will not be here, I've got some plans. We'll be back down to $2.
Well, no, but remember at the bold line is where I stopped adding the total, I only included these projects that are shaded up to,
Okay.
so this 200,000, 150, 150, all of these below the dotted line or the bold line
Yeah.
are not included in these numbers.
Oh, so the numbers will actually be higher instead of peaking in 2027.
Well, because of the repayment, because of the repayments that we're making
Right.
in the early years, I anticipate that this 2,158,000 number is the peak in 2026. Okay.
Yeah.
But depending on interest rates and the way the loans are structured, I can't be certain below the line.
So you're not attaching a value to the loans because of the uncertainty of what those projects are going to cost us.
Well, it's not only that, but also the bonding costs and everything. And so I don't know below the line what that's going to look like.
Right. And you're making the assumption that we're going to pay for that treatment center in 2025.
We're going to borrow the money and repay it over the next 29 years.
Right, but the start of the repayment is going to start in 2025.
In 2025, yes.
Yeah. So I think we need to let the public know that, you know, how this is going to roll, that this is not going to be immediate. And also we need to stress that we are not pre-borrowing this money without having it spent. So we're not going to, like it, you know, when you talk to people about borrowing money and bonding something, it looks like you've bonded it and the money's here sitting in your bank account.
Yeah, right.
And you're paying it back.
Right.
So
right. And
right.
Yes, that's a very important point. The, and I think if you look at the very end here, didn't I attach?
Your slides.
Yeah, I guess I sent them as a separate.
No, they were,
No, they're in the packet somewhere.
they're in the packet. I see.
Oh,
we-
they're
Right here.
actually in front of this stuff. I've already gone
Yeah.
by it.
Yep, I gotta just keep going here. Because it's dumb. Yeah, so that's the information that I tried to capture in this slide. You would ask for a
Right.
financial impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark, that's the slide you have to fix, right?
Well, this is the fix based on your comments last time.
No, I put C
Oh,
under
yes, right.
three. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Phase
360
3,
per thousand, right?
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
put-
no, I'm up for 100. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just left off a zero.
yeah,
Right.
Okay,
But this is based on the supposition we borrow the full cumulative effect of all of these projects being borrowed at the time.
yes, that we actually borrow all of the money by 2027. Yes, that's what
Right.
this assumes.
Yeah, and people should know that this is an assumption, not a fact.
That's correct. We only will borrow what we need to borrow.
No, I get it, but when you put it in there, people are gonna see that number of, it's a heavy number.
Yeah. it's
Yep.
huge.
it's huge. Never had anything like it.
Approaches our operating budget.
It basically is equal to almost equal to our operating budget.
Okay,
So just continue to consider these comments as I'm putting them into the slides. This also goes to the discussion about, and Dylan, you've been very patient, thank you. As far as the timeline for the engineering, this slide here. This is the backup information for the $5 million. Remember, we've taken out the land acquisition right now. That's the change on the CIP to take out that middle $5 million. So we have $5 million this year and then 15, which will actually be whatever the balance is in 2023. Nothing in 2022 for the wastewater treatment plant. But that's predicated on not having a catastrophic problem at the plant that we would have to fix. But our flex year is the 2022 where we have zero right now. But is everybody okay with the request for the $5 million?
absolutely.
Yep, that's the start.
And exactly what Mike said, we've just got to tell them that doesn't mean that we're going to go out the next day and borrow all 5 million. We're only
Right.
gonna borrow it as we need it. So that may be over 2 or 3 years.
Right.
It's an authorization to do it.
Correct.
Are you okay saying it that way, Mike?
Oh, I think it has to be said that way if we don't want to get shot.
Well, yeah, that too.
Well, we may get
Or if
shot
we-
anyway.
We may get
Or if
shot.
we don't want to spend, or if we don't
The
want
only-
to spend all evening at the deliberative session.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is that I just remember at the time we were bonding the water project, that there was a proposal from the floor that we not bond the entire thing in 1 year. And we made the argument at that time that it made sense to bond the entire thing because of where the interest rates were. And that they were lower now, and it made a whole lot more sense to do it all at once. So we're kind of making the opposite argument this time around.
Well,
We're
Margaret,
just getting the authorization to be able to bond $5 million.
right.
Right,
I think that if the board were faced with a message from the bond bank that they expect that interest rates are going to triple in the next year, or whatever crazy thing happens, that once we get this authorization, it might make sense to borrow the money. Because well, wait a minute.
Yeah. If something as dramatic as like that's going to happen, we're going to be in a lot more problems than just, fixing our treatment plant.
Well, yeah, absolutely right. But I think people they're giving you the authority to make.
Exactly. It's the
Right.
authority to do it, not saying we're
Not
doing it.
that you're gonna do it, right?
yeah. And I'm just saying that I recall at a prior town meeting that we
Yeah.
had a citizen who suggested that we not get authorization to borrow the entire amount, that we only borrow the amount for engineering
Yep.
and that kind of thing. And we said at that point in time, it didn't make sense to do that. And now we're kind of making the opposite argument.
Well, no, what we're doing right now, Margaret, though, is
This is the fastest route with toll-free route is 11 minutes slower.
oops, somebody going somewhere. The issue here, Margaret, though, is the contingency of having to repair the treatment plant if something happens in the interim. So we want to have enough money so that we can do the engineering, right, for up to the 400,000 that's on this page.
Right.
But we need to have money in case something happens to the plant that goes even beyond the 1.4 million that's here.
Right.
Right.
And I understand that. I'm just saying we need to be very clear with the voters, and I think Mike is saying the same thing, that authorization doesn't mean we're going to go out and do a $5 million bond.
Right.
Right. Okay.
But I don't want them to reduce it down to 400,000 because that's all we.
No, we need the cushion to keep this plant running, because the
Right.
repairs that we might need that come up with this new set of guidelines might cost us $1 million.
That's right. And that's what this information down here is. And we could get to the point where if we're satisfied with the preliminary engineering report that they give us, we can go right into final design and bidding, and just keep the process going forward so that by the time we get to town meeting in 2023, we already have a contract, like you were saying, Mike, where we have a contract in hand. And if we don't need $15 million, we don't ask for it.
Exactly.
Right.
The last authorization is just what we need to do the construction.
And we also might find some bonding or some grants in the meantime with this as well.
It is,
And
absolutely.
we should also let people know at this meeting that we are currently looking for alternate methods of financing this.
Yep.
This is just a stopgap because our back's against the wall, our system's failing, and the guidelines are changing.
Right.
This just is going to assure people are going to have water in and water out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Just another sidebar. Did I hear that one of the potential groundwater pieces of land has actually sold? One of the
Well,
places that we were looking at?
Yeah, it was under contract. Did that complete, Mike?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Okay, just curious. Okay.
And Dylan, did we address all of your concerns? You're all set?
Yeah, I'm all set, Mark.
Okay, Dylan, thanks for hanging in with us.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Mark, can I make one point?
Yeah, Jim. Go ahead.
Just so that the board is aware, the goal is to have bid numbers by either November of 22 or December of 22. So we'll know exactly what the future authorization is going to be.
Yeah.
That's the schedule right now. And that's kind of why Mark said before, the scheduling of the deliberative session, we don't want anything to get pushed out further than that November, December of 22. That's kind of why he was making that point.
Okay,
All right.
now are we down to board concerns and directives?
That's all I have. Yes, ma'am.
Yep, anything from anyone else? Nope.
Nope.
We've already expressed all of our concerns. Correspondence, we have something from,
Yeah, I just wanted to get your feedback on that, Margaret.
That's not in our purvey, you know. That's another town's business. Are you talking about the letter you sent out this afternoon?
No, the one that's in the packet from Ed Lucente regarding the
Oh, yeah.
marketing. Yeah, it's, I just wanted to let you know that we are talking to people about communications and, just some of the concerns that Sharon and I have is we can reach out and get people signed up and get them information via their emails. But a regular weekly or bi-weekly newsletter type thing is really beyond our capability right now, staffing wise, just to be committed to that. But we will try to collect as many email addresses as we can and try to report to people as often as we can, in line with Ed's suggestions. I think it's a good idea. It's just, that's not something that we can commit to doing right now.
basically, we send people to our website, correct?
Yeah, we'd
Latest
like,
information.
sending them links or letting them know, a quick message, but we already are communicating via Facebook and, we have the community meeting that we are talking to people every week during that update. So we're reaching quite a few people, I think. And
Okay,
if you're satisfied, I'd like to continue to do it that way.
okay,
Yep, I'm good.
okay by me.
Yeah.
Anything for non-public?
I do have just a couple of personnel things I need to update you real quick on.
Okay, great. So it is 5:24. And I would like to make a motion to go into non-public session. Can I have a second?
This is Rich. I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, Margaret, aye.
Rich, aye.
Mike, aye.
Goodbye, Tim and Nina. Goodbye, Elizabeth.
All the department heads are good. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Goodbye, Elizabeth.